I've been running a small fabrication shop for the past 5 years, and over that time I've tried just about every inverter welder you can name. So when I first saw the ESAB Rogue ET200 IP Pro, I'll admit I was skeptical. Another all-in-one TIG/stick box with a long spec sheet and a premium price tag. But after putting it through a full month of mixed work, thin stainless exhausts, mild steel frames, and the occasional aluminum repair, I can tell you where it earns its keep and where it doesn't. If you're on the fence, here's what actually matters before you click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The headline feature everyone fixates on is the high-frequency start, and for good reason. On thin stainless or aluminum, you'll get a clean arc strike every time without scratching the surface. I ran 1.5mm 304L with 18GA filler at 60 amps and the arcade lit like a switch. No pre-purge fumbling, no tungsten contamination. That alone saves you rework time on jobs where finish quality is critical. The downside? High-frequency start can throw noise into sensitive electronics if you're running other gear on the same circuit. If your shop shares a single 20-amp leg with a plasma cutter and a computer, you might need to stagger usage or add a small UPS just to keep the arc stable. Power factor correction is the real sleeper here. I've got an older Lincoln Square Wave on the same 240V circuit, and when I fire it up, the lights dim and the arc stutters if the building's supply sags. The Rogue, on the other hand, just hums along even when the shop's main panel is pulling 220V through a long extension. That stability translates to fewer dropped puddles on long beads and less frustration when you're trying to dial and pulse settings. If you've ever chased a wandering arc on a 10-foot vertical weld, you'll appreciate that consistency. Speaking of pulse, the 500Hz ceiling is useful but not magic. On 3mm aluminum, I could push the pulse up to 300 Hz and get a tighter bead with less heat input, great for cosmetic welds on bike frames. Drop the frequency to 100 Hz and the puddle opens up for root passes on thicker material. The catch is that the front panel knob only gives you coarse steps, so fine-tuning takes the remote or the app. If you're doing production work where every tenth of a second counts, you'll want to budget for the optional foot pedal and remote. Build-wise, the IP23S rating is more than marketing. I ran it outside in light rain for a full afternoon without any issues, and the fan never kicked in hard enough to suck in debris. That said, the case is plastic over metal, so it's not as tank-like as a Miller Dynasty. If you're hauling it to remote job sites every week, a padded case is a smart add-on. The weight is listed at 42 pounds, which feels right, light enough to carry up a ladder but heavy enough that it doesn't walk around on the bench when you're cranking 200 amps. Where the machine shows its limits is duty cycle at the top end. ESAB rates at 200A at 35% duty cycle on TIG, which means you're looking at roughly 7 minutes of continuous welding before the thermal shutdown kicks in. On stick it's 200A at 20%, so plan on shorter runs or invest in a second machine if you're doing heavy structural work. I ran a inch V-groove on mild steel at 180A and the machine stayed cool for about 6 minutes before it throttled back. If your shop lives on 3/8-inch plate, this isn't the welder you want for all-day runs. Another trade-off is consumables. The torch that ships with the unit is fine for general TIG, but if you're running argon-helium mixes on aluminum, you'll want to upgrade to a water-cooled torch and a gas lens collet body. The machine itself accepts them, but the bundled setup won't give you the best results on exotic alloys. Factor in another $150 to $200 if you're pushing the envelope. So who should buy this welder? If you're a professional fabricator who splits time between stainless exhausts, aluminum trim, and occasional stick work, the Rogue ET200 IP Pro is a solid mid-tier investment. The high-frequency start and PFC really shine in mixed material shops where arc reliability saves rework. If you're strictly a heavy plate welder or a weekend warrior who only fires up the machine once a month, you'll be better served by a simpler 200-amp stick-only unit and a separate TIG torch. If you decide it fits your needs, the link is in the description so you can grab the latest price and specs. Either way, make sure you budget for consumables and maybe a remote pedal. Those little extras turn a good welder into a great one.